In April, my Right Honourable friend, the Member for Witham, backed by my Right Honourable friend, the Member for Uxbridge and South Ruislip, signed a groundbreaking migration and economic development partnership with Rwanda, and they deserve enormous credit for their work on this. We agreed that people who come to the UK via dangerous, illegal and unnecessary means can be relocated to Rwanda to have their asylum claims considered there. Those in need of protection will be given up to 5 years of support, including education and employment training, along with help with integration, accommodation and healthcare. Being relocated to Rwanda is not a punishment, but an innovative way of addressing a major problem to redress the imbalance between illegal and legal migration routes. It will also ensure that those in genuine need of international protection are provided with it in Rwanda. It is a humane and practical alternative for those who come here through dangerous, illegal and unnecessary routes. And by making it clear that they cannot expect to stay in the UK, we will deter more people from coming here and make such routes unviable. Now, in June, the first plane was ready to relocate people to Rwanda. Our domestic courts, the High Court, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court upheld our right to send the flight. However, following an order by an out-of-hours judge in the European Court of Human Rights, the flight was cancelled. The European Court of Human Rights did not rule that the policy or relocations were unlawful, but it prohibited the removal of specific people. This was a without notice order, and the UK was not invited to make representations to oppose it. Mr. Speaker, as a result, we've been unable to operate relocation flights pending ongoing legal proceedings. Today, the High Court, in a judgment spanning over 130 pages, Lord Justice Lewis and Mr. Justice Swift held that it is indeed lawful for the government to make arrangements for relocating asylum seekers to Rwanda and for their asylum claims to be determined in Rwanda rather than in the United Kingdom. Now that our courts have affirmed its legality, I invite the opposition to get behind this plan. And I commend this statement to the House.
I call the Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government has failed to stop criminal gangs putting lives at risk and proliferating along our borders. They failed to prosecute or convict the gang members, and they've failed to take basic asylum decisions, which are down by 40% in the last 6 years. And instead of sorting those problems out, they have put forward an unworkable, unethical, extremely expensive Rwanda plan, which risks making trafficking worse. Yep. Now, the Home Secretary describes today's court judgment as a vindication. I have to wonder whether she has read it, because it sets out evidence of serious problems in Home Office decision-making, identifies significant financial costs of this scheme, and also very limited numbers of people who will be covered, and certainly no evidence that this will act as a deterrent or address the serious problems that we face. The court concluded that the Home Office decision-making in each of the 8 cases considered was so flawed and chaotic that those individual decisions have had to be quashed. Literally cases of mixing up evidence and names in individual cases, so they were making decisions on the wrong people, confusion between teams in Glasgow and in Croydon about who was deciding what and which information should be shared, evidence of torture and trafficking not considered, and we know too that the Home Office attempted to send heavily pregnant women to Rwanda. Now, this is a damning indictment of the decision-making process in the Home Office, which we know isn't working because 98% of the small boat arrivals in the last 12 months have had no decision at all. And where government ministers seem to have effectively decided they are so incapable of getting a grip on the asylum system and taking asylum decisions effectively here in the UK, they want to pay a country halfway across the world to take those decisions for us. Now, on the lawfulness of the decision, the court accepted that Rwanda doesn't have asylum processing capacity, including interpreters or legal support, to take these decisions, but it's concluded the agreement is still lawful because of two key things: that the number of people Rwanda takes will be very limited, and that there will be lots more money provided by the UK government. The Home Secretary didn't tell us about any of those things. So can she now tell us how many people does she expect to send to Rwanda next year? Rwanda has said it can accommodate 200 people. That is 0.5% of this year's Channel crossings. The Home Office itself has said there's no evidence it will act as a deterrent and that it is unenforceable and has a high risk of fraud. Secondly, can she tell us the full cost? The court said there will be significant additional funding provided. The government's already written Rwanda 2 cheques this year, one for £120 million, another this summer for £20 million. Millions more are promised. So how much more? And how much is this going to end up costing per person? Because it looks like over £1 million per person at the moment. And third, the court judgment says there's no evidence the UK government sought to investigate either the terms of the Rwanda-Israel agreement or the way it had worked in practice. Why on earth not? Because that agreement was abandoned with evidence that it had increased trafficking and the activity of criminal gangs. Convictions for people smuggling have already dropped by 75% in the space of 2 years. Convictions for people trafficking are already pitifully low, and a former Chief Constable has warned the Borders Act will make that worse. Time and again, the government is failing to tackle the criminal gangs who are driving this or to make them pay the price. So instead of this unworkable, unethical, extortionately expensive and deeply damaging policy, the government should be using this investment to go after the gangs who are putting lives at risk. Time and again, all they are doing is chasing headlines, and these are distractions, damaging distractions from the serious hard work to tackle the gangs and sort out the asylum system. The Home Secretary has said that the Conservatives are in last chance saloon. It is their policies that have put them there and that have let the country down, always ramping up the rhetoric, never doing the serious hard work or common sense. Britain deserves better than this. Britain is better than this.
Secretary.
I'm very disappointed by the response from the Shadow Home Secretary, and more actually concerned that she's actually seeking to go behind what is a legitimate decision by our independent judiciary, set out rigorously, exhaustively, thoroughly, and suggest that this is still an illegitimate scheme. We've seen through this judgment that this is now lawful on several grounds.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The Home Secretary says that Britain has a proud tradition of supporting asylum seekers. That is true in part, but it's not true under her tenure. She is pursuing a vile policy which is brutal towards the individuals concerned and continually tells us that it is illegal to seek asylum. It is not. It is clearly there in all international conventions. Will she, for once, have a sense of humanity towards people who are desperate and are victims of wars, of environmental change, of human rights abuse, and exploited it to boot? Cannot she just hold out a hand of friendship and understanding towards these desperate people rather than this brutal assertion she's making today?
Sir Desmond Swayne.
Were more safe and legal routes to be made available, they would quickly be taken up, and the trade in small boats would then continue unabated, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Ben.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr Deputy Speaker. Could the Home Secretary clarify for the House, if someone arrives on the shores at Dover to claim asylum, in order to be able to join a child, a spouse, or an elderly parent here in the United Kingdom, like to family life, can she assure the House that that individual would not be put on a plane to Rwanda and separated from their family for the rest of their lives?
The reality is that anybody arriving here irregularly will be eligible for consideration. We will consider every case on its individual merits. We have excluded families from the scheme, but we will also ensure that the decisions are made on a lawful and rational basis.
Caroline Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The Home Secretary says she's taking a deterrent approach, but it's plain that today's judgment cannot and will not function as a so-called deterrent, since the whole point of this vile policy of expelling asylum seekers to Rwanda is that expulsion was supposed to happen automatically and rapidly for anyone without a prior permission to come here via a refugee scheme. But today's High Court judgment found that each and every individual case must be assessed first, so there'll be nothing automatic about it, and under this government there'll be nothing rapid about it either. So will she put a permanent end to this useless cruelty, provide safe and legal routes, and ensure that such routes actually function, because the one from Afghanistan currently doesn't? And will she stop saying that this policy has the support of the British people? There is a recent poll from YouGov that shows that just 10% actually support this. The British people are better than this vile British government.
Secretary.
Well, I think that the reality is that we are supported in taking control over our borders. That was reflected in the 2016 referendum, endorsed in the 2019 referendum election. And we have made clear that we will do whatever it takes to ensure we make progress on stopping illegal migration, we bring an end to people taking this lethal journey, and ultimately we restore integrity to our immigration system.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I welcome the statement today and the judgment, but will the Secretary of State confirm to this House that she will continue to use every tool in her power to stop these boats? As you can see, the opposition and there will be the human rights lawyers who will try and stop what the good work that the Secretary of State is doing, because the people of Doncaster are tired of being taken advantage of by these illegal immigrants. So will she confirm to the House that she will continue to use every power that she has?
Well, my honourable friend not only speaks for the people of Doncaster, but he speaks for the people of Britain in his question there, and expressing the sentiment that the British people are tired and they want this problem to be fixed. It's only this government that's going to do it.